Hey, welcome back to my channel. This video is a bit of a different one, but I thought I would do a sit down video too. My plan is to do a series of just kind of sit down chattier videos where I discuss some topics that I can yap about. I'm a yapper, I've got a lot of opinions, I'm very opinionated, and I feel like if I yap all that I want in my vlogs, they'll be very boring. So I thought, why not make individual videos where I can yap about certain topics so people who are interested can watch them. Anyways, let's get straight into it. So this video is going to be advice that I wish someone gave me at 18 or maybe when I was a teenager. Just advice that I wish someone had given me earlier in life that I have learned the hard way at almost 24 now. So this is basically going to be a video of advice that I would give my little sisters. If you don't already know, I have 4 little sisters and I'm the second oldest, so I'm one of 6 girls and I'm a big sister, and I feel like I've got a little big sister knowledge that I want to spread, give out, and whether they like it or not, I'm going to make them watch this video and just learn from my mistakes and hopefully get some good advice. The first one is never rely on someone else for money. So we're slowly unlearning the lies that we are taught as girls within a patriarchal society. I know that's a bit of a buzzword. We live in a patriarchy, but in this society, when you're a young girl, from such an early on stage, we are taught to just depend on men or just other people, whether it be our parents, grandparents, partners, boyfriends, husbands, whatever, for money. The only person you should be relying on for money is your employer. And even then, your goal should be to try and be financially independent of your employer as well. But that's obviously a long-term goal. Anyways, if you are a teenager out there, 15, 16, 17, 18, or if you're older and you're currently relying on someone for money, whether it be your parents or your partner, go get a job. Go pick up, and I know getting a job in this job market is quite difficult right now, but get any job you can get. When I was 15, I worked my first ever job. I was waiting for the day I turned 15 so that I could work my first part-time job legally in the UK, and I worked in a cafe at my local village, and that led to a job with one of their kind of partnered restaurants when I was finally 16, because you had to be 16 to work in a restaurant. I was on £5 an hour to start off with, and it gave me I think it was £50 a week, maybe even less than that probably. I did shifts on the weekends when I wasn't playing rugby, and I did shifts when I could after school, and I was using this money to go and buy my overpriced makeup on Look Fantastic or Beauty Bay or wherever I was shopping. But it taught me the importance and the value of money, because when that money ran out, that was it. My parents were never the kind of parents that gave me money for chores. I feel like that's something that you should also just be taught to do, because you're doing what every grown-up should have to do, and that is clean up after themselves and learn life skills. That shouldn't be something that you get paid for, because when you move out of your parents' house, you have to do it for yourself anyway. So I never had free cash growing up, and this job taught me the value of money, which a lot of adults when you're a grown-up that actually still don't know the value of money, because they've just been given it by their family or from whatever source their entire life, and that's called privilege. But not all of us are born with that. So you have to learn to navigate the world on your own, because if you don't, you'll pay for it long term, and ultimately you will have a long-term battle ahead of you between you and money. And that is not a fun road to go down. If you rely on someone for money, you are ultimately at their will, and they have the power to control you, whether you admit it or not. And I know some people love that old-fashioned nuclear family model where the woman stays at home looking after the kids, the husband goes to work. But there's a huge problem that we've seen, and it's now coming to the surface, I think, a lot more than it has in the past, where men abuse that, because ultimately it was men that were allowed to have the bank accounts and allowed to go to work. And if you are not financially independent, you can be abused. I know it's difficult topics, but you can be verbally or physically abused and you have no way out. That is obviously jumping from one extreme to the other, but money gives you freedom. If you don't have money, you can't just pick up and leave. And that's what you're signing up for when you're teaching yourself financial independence at the age of 15 onwards, or however early. It's something that I'm always very grateful that I fought so hard for myself to get. And there were some bumps along the road, don't get me wrong. Again, it teaches you the importance of money and the importance of hard work and saving, because if you don't put money away for a rainy day, it'll catch up on you and it sucks. And again, you learn the hard way. Never rely on someone else for money, because you are literally giving them your freedom on a plate and saying, here you go, I don't need this, I don't want this. And I know some jobs are absolutely crap. Hospitality, you get treated like shit by customers sometimes. You're dealing with people's manky food plates. You work long shifts for not very much pay at all. I think I learned the most in my teenage years from having a part-time job, especially in hospitality. I think it's also very empowering knowing that at any point you could live off of a hospitality or a retail job's wage. If you really had to and you hated your corporate job so much, you can leave. You can leave and you can go back to working 50, 60-hour weeks if you need to. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be pretty crappy, but if you need to and you're in a pickle, you do not need to stay anywhere that's making you miserable and that's making you hate life. Nothing is worth your mental health. Remember that. Next, take pride in being intelligent. Again, within the patriarchy, it's becoming more and more obvious that the society just doesn't like smart women at times. And not in all cases. I'm generalizing a lot here, but you'll sometimes feel like you need to dumb yourself down for the sake of those around you, particularly men. Love you men, love my dad, love my partner, but there are some men out there that genuinely thrive on making women feel small and making themselves feel superior to the women around them. I think learning to back yourself and hold your head high when you're confident on something, and if you're wrong, being able to accept that. Of course, humility is also equally as important, but don't let anyone make you doubt yourself and downplay your intelligence. It becomes easier over time. When you're young, it's really easy to just play into that role of being a silly little girl trope. And it's easy because it's the role that society wants you to play. But the older you get, you realise that all you're doing is shutting yourself off from opportunities in the long term by doing that. And you're also diminishing your self-confidence. That kind of pattern and playing into that will just alienate yourself from your identity. You're basically lying to yourself and those around you. So you're never going to build deep connections with anyone if you're constantly pretending to be someone that you're not. And just remember, being intelligent is badass. Being a smart woman is everything. Take pride in your intelligence. Some countries today, women still can't get an education. I'm talking about Afghanistan and places that are heavily religious, believe that women shouldn't read, shouldn't have an education. I just think it's something that we need to not forget that and take pride in being intelligent. Next is look after yourself. Looking healthy will always be prettier than being starved or hating yourself will ever look. We are in such an Ozempic and skinny trending era right now. I hate that women's bodies are trends, but I think it's really important to emphasize that the healthiest version of yourself will be the version that looks the best. And it took me a long time to realise this. I think body image has always been a topic of discussion for women. Women's bodies have been seen as trends forever. And I think it's just really important that you decenter that and other people's opinions from what you look like and just focus on being healthy. Educate yourself on things like the gut microbiome. Learn what fibre is and what it does. Because too much fibre sometimes can give you a tummy upset, and too little of it can cause, is it colon cancer, bowel cancer? I can't remember which one. So yeah, educate yourself about nutrients and what each kind of group does for your body and realise the value and the importance of each one. Fats are not evil. Carbs are not evil. Nuts are not evil. These are all eating disordered trends that have been passed down to generations of women that we need to just unlearn. And we need to learn to take care of ourselves. We need to fucking grow up and stop buying into every single trend we see online, given to us by people who are not educated on nutrition. They don't give a damn about our long-term health, our lifespan, our happiness. And if it means getting off the internet to do this, get off the internet. Delete everything. I wasn't on the internet for about 3 years there, cold turkey, and I'm only slowly introducing it back into my life now because I have my own opinions on these things and I've built my confidence and my values from the ground up that I now feel confident enough to tackle the internet. We've got young girls that are getting put onto these platforms and social media that don't have that. They've not had a chance to develop those values yet and those opinions, and it's really damaging. And there's so many girls that are ending up in hospital from under eating and just eating disorders, whether it be binge eating or whatever. And it's so sad to see. So learn to be healthy. Learn, educate yourself. Again, it ties back to my point before. Be intelligent, critique things, critical thinking, ask yourself, is this true? Could I maybe do some more research on this topic before taking this person's opinion as gospel? Is this post that I've just seen maybe damaging to my body image, or is it maybe toxic? And being able to recognize those patterns and unfollowing those kind of people on the internet and reporting them or clicking I don't want to see similar posts to this, that kind of stuff. Just shut down any trace of eating disorder culture as soon as it starts, whether it be in your friends making jokes about their bodies in the changing rooms, or whether it be a silly what I eat in a day post on TikTok. Being able to recognize when something's not healthy and it's promoting disordered eating is really important. And once you educate yourself, it's really easy to recognize it around you. My last point is learn to take the stress out of your life and unlearning this narrative that women always need to be stressed out. It wasn't until I heard other women speak about this, but growing up, you don't tend to see any woman around you relaxing, whether it be a waitress in a restaurant, your mother on Christmas, your gran when you go and visit her. Women are always taught to faff and tend to other people's needs and put themselves last all the time, constantly. It's part of the reason why I will most likely not be having kids in my life. And let's just unlearn this narrative right now, because just some information for you based on the American Psychological Association. Constant spikes in heart rate and blood pressure damage the lining of your arteries. This creates arterial inflammation, accelerates the formation of artery clogging plaques, and drastically increases the statistical likelihood of experiencing a sudden heart attack or stroke. And cortisol naturally suppresses your immune system's efficacy. Is that how you say that? Prolonged stress lowers your white blood cell count, leaving your body significantly more vulnerable to viral infections and drastically delaying your natural healing processes. Chronic stress also triggers persistent cravings for high fat, high sugar comfort foods, while simultaneously altering how your body stores fat. This biological shift directly correlates with clinical obesity and the development of type 2 diabetes. And then last of all, stress directly alters your gut microbiome, speeds up or slows down your natural digestion, and causes severe flare-ups of chronic conditions like IBS or stomach ulcers. If that's not enough of a reason to take your stress seriously and your stress level seriously, I don't know what is. It's something that I didn't realize I was in a constant fight or flight mode until I was maybe 22, 23, like in the last couple of years basically. And all throughout the first half of my university and all throughout high school, I had no concept of like how my heart rate would spike at certain things and how that can actually be minimized and why that doesn't always have to be the case. I hate to be a little like tech promoter, but I got a Garmin in, was it 2024 maybe? And it's been really helpful to see when my heart rate is elevated from different things, whether it be just exercise or a conversation with someone or just a stressful situation. And once you identify what makes you stressed and how stress manifests in your body, whether it be you get clammy hands or your breathing gets shallower, it's the first step to then being able to act on it and try and reduce that stress. And for me, it was a constant need to be efficient at everything. It was doing everything at 5 times the normal speed. And there was absolutely no need for that, whether it meant I'd have to maybe wake up 20 minutes earlier if I was getting ready for work, or that's what I should have been doing. But going through life at a million miles an hour is just so bad for your health. And we need to unlearn this idea that women need to be whizzing about constantly and not taking time for themselves to relax. I used to feel like it was selfish for a woman to sit down and just take an hour and not even sit on your phone, but just sit on the couch with a cup of tea, have a wee biscuit, put on your show. It's going to catch up on you, and it's something that I think every single woman needs to learn to take seriously. Relax, take time for yourself, find out what makes your heart rate go down and your stress levels go down. Reading's a good one. Getting into something that maybe puts you in your flow state is really good. Activities I find that put me in a flow state are like slow games when I'm gaming, playing guitar, sewing, walking is such a good one. Stroking a pet is amazing. Cuddle your dog or your cat. It genuinely, I think it's actually been proven to help stress levels or like anxiety in humans. So I'll maybe put a reference to that, but find out how to reduce your stress levels and make time for it every single day and try and reduce the stress in your life, because it is a silent killer and we need to take it more seriously. I actually have one more. This is the last point, and it is take your sleep seriously. We've talked about stress, but finally I want to get on to take your sleep seriously. When I was a teenager in high school, I did 8 National 5s because mum had the bright idea to send me to a private school. Love you, mum. And I remember I was maybe 15 at the time. I would stay up gaming with friends until 2 in the morning, and then I'd get up at, was it 6 o'clock for school? Because I went to a school that was an hour away from my house, and the bus pickup from where I lived was at 7 o'clock. So you do the math. That was 4 hours of sleep per night. At max, I was getting 6. I was not going to bed before midnight. And I was doing that 5 days a week. And this is all whilst I was also getting into performance rugby. And I was training for the Scotland team and doing about 3 to 4 rugby sessions every single week without fail. And then having games on Sundays. And this is all with terrible nutrition and no sleep. And I do not know how I survived. Do not know how I did it. Adrenaline is a wonderful thing, apparently. I will read you out some stuff about sleep. This is some information from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes of Health. During sleep, your blood pressure naturally drops, giving your heart a critical rest period. Talking about resting again. Depriving your body of this phase means your blood pressure stays elevated for longer. Chronic insomnia is clinically linked to a 45% higher risk of developing or dying from cardiovascular disease. While you're in deep sleep, your brain uses a specialized waste clearance mechanism, which is the glymphatic system, to literally wash away toxic metabolic waste, including beta amyloid proteins. Chronic lack of sleep prevents this cleaning cycle, causing these toxins to build up into plaques that are directly linked to the onset of Alzheimer's disease and dementia. Sleep loss throws your hunger hormones entirely out of balance. It spikes ghrelin, the hormone that makes you crave calorie-dense sugars, and plummets leptin, the hormone that signals fullness. This biological disruption triggers immediate insulin resistance, directly paving the way for type 2 diabetes and clinical obesity. And finally, while sleeping, your immune system produces essential cytokines and infection-fighting cells. Depriving your body of this recovery time sharply lowers your immune defenses, rendering you highly susceptible to illness and severely delaying cellular recovery. Also, a little fun side thing, sleep deprivation slows your neural processing and reaction times to a level identical to being legally drunk. There is no excuse for getting less than 7 hours of sleep per night unless you have a newborn baby. And even then, I would argue there's 2 parents in the house. So teamwork that shit. Get help in if you need to, or just want to have kids. I know it's not as simple as that because I was with my mum when she had her twins and how old was I? I think I was 15. And I know having a young born child is not that easy, but I think building a foundation of good sleep, or what do they call it? Good sleep hygiene before having kids puts you in a lot better steading to deal with that temporary lack of sleep for the first 12 months, 2 years of having a kid. But it's something that I think we should take a lot more seriously because of all the reasons I just listed. Also, if you're someone who's trying to lose weight or just get healthy and put on muscle mass from gym or whatever, if you're not getting 7 hours of sleep at least, there's no point in counting your calories or putting all that extra effort in because you're just depriving yourself of the largest gains that you could be making from sleeping. Your body literally repairs itself when you sleep. So if you're not taking sleep seriously, it's your time to start. Some tips for this one is have a bedtime routine. It sounds like I'm referring back to like the Bethany Mota YouTube days where people would do like their nighttime routines, or it sounds like I'm telling you to treat yourself like a toddler, but genuinely that's what you need to do. I personally like a little sleepy tea that I have before bed, a chamomile tea, not because I think it has any scientific backing in making you sleepy, but it signals receptors in your brain. It's been proven to do that. And the routine and having a consistent thing that you do before bed actually does promote better sleep. I also, again, referring back to the Garmin Track My Sleep, which has made a huge difference to actually realizing how little or how much sleep I'm actually getting. And then it also does, I'm not sure how accurate this is, but it does track your deep sleep, which it mentioned in those stats there. And deep sleep's really important, and you can have too much of it and you can have too little of it. Same with, is it REM sleep? And you basically want to balance between those two things. So it's good to actually visualize it by tracking it from a wearable. Magnesium glycinate is also a good one, not to be mistaken with, I think it's magnesium citrate is the one that's sold in supermarkets. So it needs to be glycinate to help with your sleep. Having a bit of dark chocolate is also good for your sleep, apparently. I do love myself some dark chocolate. And if you're getting dark chocolate, make sure you're getting something that's got like, I'd say at least 60% cocoa. Otherwise, is it really dark chocolate? I'm not sure what officially classifies as dark chocolate, but I like a good 70% dark chocolate. Lowering the lights, like light is so important for our circadian rhythm, and especially during these summer months when the sun doesn't set until, is it like 10 o'clock at night? Close your curtains early. Turn on a red filter on your phone. I personally have one. You can add it to your bit up here and you can click it like that and it'll make your screen red filtered. Just take it seriously. Don't mess about with your sleep. It's so important. And it's something that I see, especially people in their 20s when they're getting into their party era of their life and going out clubbing and all that, is something that suffers the most. And drinking alcohol is a whole other thing, but all I'm going to say is alcohol severely impacts your sleep. If you've got a watch that tracks your sleep, you will definitely see that visually in your results when you wake up in the morning. And it's up to you to decide if that is worth it for you, that trade-off. But I do have alcohol at times, but just not in the same way that I used to because of that huge reason. There's many other reasons, but sleep is definitely a big factor for me. And it's time we stop messing about with our sleep. Also, another one that's just free to to do is open your windows before bed, make your room nice and cold, get a fan if you need to, because it's obviously getting into summer right now. Make your room nice and cold. It does help you sleep better. That's also been proven. Having a consistent go to bed time and wake up time is my last point there, because I used to just kind of wing it every night, and it's difficult to get enough sleep if you're not keeping that consistent bedtime time and wake up time. All right, so that is all for this video. That is all my advice that I would give my little sisters, and also the advice that I would give myself, my younger self, if I could go back now and speak to her, I guess. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.